Welcome to Stocks to Watch. Today, we're speaking with a company focused on the importance of potash, a basic nutrient for plants and an important ingredient in fertilizer made up of a group of minerals and chemicals that contain potassium. I'm Ashley Berry, and here to discuss this and its significance is Farhad Abasov, chairman of Millennial Potash, an exploration company developing its flagship Banio Potash project in Gabon, a Central African country rich in natural resources. They're listed on the TSXV as MLP, the OTCQB as MLPNF, and the Frankfurt Exchange as X0D. Welcome, Farhad.
Thank you, Ashley. Good to be here and good to see you.
Absolutely. So I understand potash is vital. It's used to regulate the movement and storage of solutes throughout the plant, basically like the human blood system. And one thing that really impresses me about your mission in particular is your commitment to using environmentally sustainable and responsible practices, and of course, the partnerships you've developed with local communities.
Absolutely, Ashley. Actually, we always look at that angle first before we get it involved with a project. In this particular case, we're going to be using what they call solution mining technology, which is well proven worldwide, but specifically in large potash basins in the world, such as Saskatchewan in Canada and in Germany. And this method, this approach entails basically injecting water into the ore body, dissolving potash underground, then pumping it back up to the surface, and then processing potash from there. And it is environmentally benign, and I would say probably has the least environmental impact in general because of the nature of the works. You don't excavate, you don't move earth, you don't sink a shaft. So literally, when you go and visit these sites, you would never guess that it is a mining operation. All you see is a straight surface, untouched surface with just some wellheads sticking out and with gauges on them. And that is very important for us because we're in a beautiful part of this country of Gabon, and we really want to leave as little imprint their environmental impact as possible.
Fantastic. I have to imagine there's so many people rallying around your mission. You have just released some really big news, exciting results from your drill hole BA002 on your potash project, following a decision to extend its depth to 554 meters. Now, before we really get into the details about that, can you explain the rationale behind really deepening this drill hole?
Absolutely, Asha. And that's critical because when we took over this project, bear in mind, this is a fairly new project. We started with it only in March this year, and we're developing the record time. We built our camp and brought in drill rig, et cetera, only in September, started drilling in October. And our view was that the previous exploration work, including 3 drill holes in this particular part of the project, the northern part of the project, did not go deep enough. In other words, we thought that, looking at seismic work and also drill cores from the south, we basically projected that there's a good chance, a very good probability that by drilling it further down, we'll be able to intersect more potash horizons, or as we call them, potash cycles. And that's exactly what happened. Incredibly, we intersected 2 more cycles or 2 more potash layers, adding incredibly to the thickness of the potash layers in the north alone. And that was the main thing. I mean, we really wanted to see whether this extension of only about less than 40 meters would allow us to get more potash. And the significance of this actually is tremendous. That means that there's a lot more potash here than we originally thought and originally expected.
So when you're talking about the intersection of those two and really the importance of the findings, could you maybe expand a little bit on that and what that means for Millennium Potash?
Absolutely. Actually, just in a nutshell, so basically when we talk about these potash cycles or potash horizons, basically we're talking about layers. So if you look at it in a vertical manner, a stratigraphic manner, so basically we're talking different layers of potash going down. And they're different thicknesses, between 4 meters, 6 meters, 10 meters each. And obviously, the more of these potash layers we find, that means there's more potash resource in there. So to give you a kind of a stark contrast between what we expected and what we found, is that originally we were thinking, again, based on the drill cores done in 2017 and 2018, that the total or cumulative thickness of potash horizons here in the north would reach maximum 30, maybe 35 meters. Now, with this extension, we're reaching all the way up to 80 meters. So this is absolutely incredible. So this is twice as thick as originally thought. And again, I think this is going to translate into a tremendous resource just in the north, in a very, very small part of the entire project. Our project is 1,200 square kilometers. What we're talking about is less than 5% of the project. And in other words, we always thought that, we're going to get very thick potash horizons in the south, up to 100 meters, maybe higher. Now we're getting basically the same in the north. So imagine our excitement when we saw that. And again, we think that even the maiden resource that we're going to put out later this year is going to be a fraction of what is actually contained in the ground.
So twice as thick. That's really significant, Farhad. So I understand this is phase one. What are the next steps in the program for this project? And could you also share some details about the operational standards followed in your exploration work? I know you talked a little bit about it in the beginning, but if you could maybe touch a little bit deeper on that.
Sure. Actually, first of all, maybe I'll touch on what the plan is going forward. So this new finding actually changed our thinking about the project significantly, because again, the whole idea was that we'll drill in the north, we'll put out the maiden resource estimate, and then our main effort will be focused on the southern part of the project, because that's where we thought the mother lode of potash is. And we still believe it, but what this changed for us is that we think there's so much potash in the north that most likely in the new year, we'll sink a couple more holes in the north and probably increase dramatically whatever we're going to be reporting later this year. So that is a major change, a very positive change in our thinking and our strategy in terms of our work program. But in terms of the steps, they're the same. So, we're going to put out our 43-101 compliant maiden resource estimate later this year. Then early next year, we're going to be working on a PEA, and that will come out probably in January or February. The PEA is a preliminary economics assessment, so that's kind of a scoping study. And that will be based on the maiden resource that we're going to put out this year. And then, of course, we'll drill, as I said, most likely a few more holes in the north, and we will revise our maiden resource estimate, obviously, hopefully to the upside significantly. And if we like what we see, meaning if there's more than enough resource, more than enough data, then we'll go straight into the bankable feasibility. And meanwhile, if we wish, we can move down to the south and drill there. But we believe we're going to have so much material in the north that south is going to be like huge, untapped blue sky potential for us. In terms of our standards, now our approach is quite different from a lot of junior companies. Actually, is that early on in our careers, we worked very closely with an organization called IFC, International Finance Corporation, out of Washington, D.C., your hometown. It is the largest development financing institution in the world, meaning that their main mandate is to actually help private enterprises in the developing countries. And they were a shareholder in one of our previous companies, although also a potash company. And one of their main requirements for them to become a shareholder in the company, to invest in the company, was that we comply with IFC environmental standards. And their environmental standards are the gold standards in the industry. So if you comply with them, basically everybody else is automatically going to be happy, so to speak, that you are in compliance with IFC standards. And since then, we've learned our lesson, because we end up selling these companies to larger companies down the road who also want to have obviously high standards of environmental protection and compliance and so forth. So we have introduced and already instituted our ESG policies early on. You would say, well, you're such a young company, why would you do that? But we've learned the lesson that it pays off big time down the road, because it ticks so many boxes. It actually puts a specific framework around how we approach our project, and I already talked about solution mining, but it also refers to every single other thing: how we build the camp, how we operate it, how we operate all our machinery and equipment, how we deal with the local community, and so forth. But also, it creates goodwill with the community and with the country. They see exactly what we do. They see how much we care about, again, the local community and the environment. And as I said, down the road, it has a huge positive commercial impact on us, because whoever is looking at us as a strategic investor, a potential buyer of the company or the project, they see that we've done a really superb job in that regard. So it is critical for us. And I think in one of our previous interviews, I mentioned if, for example, this project were not amenable to solution mining, we would not have touched it.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounds like this will pay off dividends. And, I want to go back to the north and the new discoveries there. And uh, really, it sounds like, Farhad, in the next year, there's going to be a lot of milestones reached with Millennial Potash, which brings me to those that are listening and watching. Considering these encouraging updates, what would you say to those? Why should they invest in your company? I mean, it seems like there's so many great updates coming out from you. So, what's your, words of advice for them?
Actually, a few things. First of all, we've already talked about what is coming. We think what we're going to have next year is, frankly, a world-class resource with one of the thickest potash deposits in the world, and potentially one of the lowest cost production centers in the world as well, as far as potash is concerned, of course. And I think the team that we've put on this, again, one of the most successful potash teams in the junior mining in the last 10, 15 years. That's very important. In other words, our team knows exactly what they're doing, and they're doing, this particular news release showed that, all their vision and their strategy have been correct, and we've done a good job. And in this case, with very little money, we've proven we're basically going to be able to double, triple maybe what of the resource that we originally thought would be in the ground. And lastly, it's a great time because the market obviously has been pretty bad, as you know, for junior miners, not only for junior miners, of course, for many other companies too, but specifically for junior miners. And we're not exceptional, unfortunately. So the stock has come down. We believe it's in the trough and probably low point. And considering all these great milestones that we're intent on hitting in the next few weeks and months, I think this is probably the best time to enter the market as well, as far as Millennial Potash is concerned. So look, we're very excited. We think, we are going to achieve what we set out to achieve. And even looking at the current status or state of the project, we've done a tremendous job and in a really record time, considering that we started only in March. We set up our camp in late August, early September. We already have results, and we're going to have 43-101 before the end of the year. I think this is absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. So if we, talk about the significance of potash, we talked about the environmental sustainability, your commitment to that, talking about the importance of potash in and of itself. Where do you see this going in the future?
Look, when you look at the current trends in the world, and before the interview we spoke about the political events, taking shape worldwide. So I would call it as a geopolitical, the framework right now in different parts of the world. And when you look at actually how it impacts, a lot of sectors, including food sector, including fertilizers, and when you look at the structure of the potash industry, which is heavily geographically concentrated. Basically, 3 countries in the world, Canada, Belarus, and Russia, supply about 70% of the world's potash. You understand how important it is to have another source of potash production in a neutral country, in a good location, a good jurisdiction, and also in a place where it can feed potash into major markets. In the case of Gabon, Gabon is in a place where, it can obviously feed Africa, which is obviously in dire need of fertilizers. And there's no domestic production in Africa. There's no production on the entire continent. They import everything. Also, we're close to Brazil. We can deliver it, obviously, to other markets in Asia. So that is very important. And food security is becoming critical for many countries, and as even as a young company, we already see interest from different regions who want to source potash from countries other than Russia, other than Belarus, and sometimes other than Canada. So this is a very interesting dynamic, and we think we're in the right place at the right time and with the right project. So that's why we're quite excited. I think that later this year, next year, we're going to have a very interesting situation with this project.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing those insights. Farhad Abasov, chairman of Millennial Potash, such an important mission, such incredible updates. And we really look forward to hearing what's coming out from your company in the next few weeks to months. It sounds like, as I said, a lot of milestones to be reached.
Thanks so much, Ashley. It's really exciting times. And good to see you. And hopefully we'll have another one where we'll talk about next milestones.
Looking
Thank
forward
you.
to it. Thanks again for joining Stocks to Watch.